What's going on, you guys? Uncle Jesse here. I'm actually out in my backyard and it is pretty dang cold out. However, I wanted to do a little bit of an experiment with you guys. In one of my last videos, I made a 1-to-1 scale life-size Deadpool bust. And one of the concerns that I had with making that was that the head was actually printed completely hollow. I've reprinted one here as part of this experiment. By the way, you can find those files over on Thingiverse. It's made by Happy Moon and it's an absolutely awesome file for you to guys to work with. And I highly recommend, if you have a 3D printer, go off and print one for yourself. By the way, if you didn't see that last video, I'll have a link for it up above. So as I mentioned, I printed the head completely hollow and I've reprinted it here, and part of my concern was how well will this actually hold up? If I'm traveling with this, if I accidentally drop it, what's the rigidity of this going to be? Because I could pretty easily crush this if I tried hard enough here, because there is no supports on the inside of this holding it together. So I had a lovely viewer that commented and said, hey, Uncle Jesse, why don't you try using some expanding foam on the inside of that print? And I thought that was a great idea. I've never actually worked with this stuff before, so I ran off to Home Depot. This is called Great Stuff. Seemed like there was about 3 or 4 other brands or options available. This is a big gap filler. I figured since this is a very large cavity that I'm looking to fill, probably best to use the big gap filler option here. All right, so before I can get to filling the head with the expanding foam, I need to actually make a hole for it to go into. So at the bottom of this print, there's actually a place where it would sit on the torso. However, I'm gonna drill out a hole with a 3/4 inch bit here to make a hole for the expanding foam. And more or less just break my way into it. That's pretty much exactly what I did with the other helmet. Just a quick note, again, I've never worked with expanding foam before. If you've never used this stuff before, make sure to read the directions on the back. Apparently, this can be fatal if you ingest this stuff, which I don't think anybody would properly be ingesting this or trying to get it in their eyes. However, I'm making sure I have my clothing protected here. I've got a little work jacket thing that I wear in my workshop occasionally, especially now it's cold. I'm gonna have some gloves that I'll be wearing, put a hat on to protect my glorious dew here, and also have some safety glasses that I will be wearing for this little experiment. So just a little precaution for you folks out there. All right, so I've gotten about halfway filled, and unfortunately the can just kind of stopped working there. I've probably got about half a bottle left and it just won't spray anymore. I probably need at least 2 bottles to fill this head. Still not entirely sure if this is gonna work or not, but we'll see. I'm gonna keep going with it though. All right, it's been a little over 24 hours and it looks like this has actually filled most of the inside of the head. I was a little nervous because I ended up running out of spray foam, and I wasn't really taking into consideration that the foam was actually going to expand more over a 24-hour period versus what I was just seeing as it was spraying out of the can. So I ended up being able to fill about half of the head with that one bottle, and then over a 24-hour period, it filled up almost the entire cavity except for the chin and neck area here, which might be a little hard to see on camera, but there is a little bit of, you can sort of transparently see through the printed material here to see where it had actually finished filling versus not filling. And all of the dried up foam here, it feels like a piece of foam. This is so odd to me. I've never worked with this stuff before, but it legitly is it's foam in a can that you can spray. So I should just be able to take a knife and cut off any of the excess around any of the openings, or some, if any of it gets around the edges, I can either pick it off or cut it off or maybe Dremel it off. So I picked up some extra spray foam, and what I'm gonna do now is take the actual finished printed head and now begin filling that with some of this expanding foam, and fingers crossed everything works out perfectly. All right, so I might have filled it just a little too much. This foam can actually sprayed so much better than the first one. which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting pretty much the same experience. This flowed really, really good, and I ended up using pretty much the entire can and filled it a little bit more than halfway, and now I'm apparently filled it, and apparently I filled it a little too much. So here I'm just trying to clean up a little bit of the excess. A tissue is probably not the best tool for the job here.
Alright, and here is the finished Deadpool head. This now has spray foam completely filling up the inside of this head. This worked extremely, extremely well. It's a really cheap solution. For anybody that's out there that is printing hollow with their replica props or projects and are looking for a way to figure out how to strengthen them afterwards, there's no flex to this or anything like this. I could drop this if I wanted to and I wouldn't have to worry about it breaking. The other thing was, as you saw from the video, I well overfilled this with spray foam and it just oozed out, and I constantly had to go in and check on this as it was curing and drying over the course of a handful of hours there, and kept continually cleaning it up. In hindsight, if you're doing a project like this, make sure to mask off any area that you do not want the foam to stick to, because now I still have some additional cleanup that I need to do on this particular Deadpool head. Now to clean up any of these areas where the foam attached, even though I was able to scrub it away and sand it away or Dremel it away, I still have to go back over and repaint some of these areas. And yeah, it's just not entirely as clean as I should have been, or as cautious as I should have been when setting this up. All right, so let's test this out and make sure it fits properly. I believe we are pretty good. This is now much more durable than it was previously as a hollow head, and now I feel a little bit more comfortable if this thing falls over, it's not gonna completely shatter and break, or if I need to pack it up and bring it to a convention or something like that, I would have no issues with this now. All right, you guys, let me know in the comments what you thought about this foam insulation project. I'm sure at some point in the future I'll be using this again on one of my upcoming props, builds, who knows what. But I just want to say thanks again for watching, you guys. If you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now. Look at this. I feel comfortable spinning this around here even. And look at this. I still have foam popping out of here, by the way.